Australia has a pretty cool little history of gin. It's only been in the last kind of decade that it's really kind of exploded. Started more or less down in Tassie, and then kind of exploded from there, from having a good little batch of really passionate and wonderful people in Tasmania, and kind of exploded from there. And I think there's a lot of people wanting to make darker spirits, and it's kind of stemmed from people having to wait from that people have created this delicious gin spirit that they could sell much quicker than the barrel-aged stuff. So I think that's helped in the different growth, and also the native botanicals and stuff like that. So it kind of started down south and slowly kind of spread across the country as it got more popular in general. Australian distilleries, and like gin distilleries in particular, definitely kind of put a different spin on things. We have like unique botanicals that are just in Australia, so I think a lot of people just try and use as much of those as they possibly can. That's kind of how it ends up, and how gins become so popular, I suppose. Oh, for sure, Granddad Jack stuff, no doubt. We make 3 pretty distinctively different ones. We've won gold medal for our juniper only gin, 2 pencils. But 65 miles is probably a standout for something that's truly different. It's got a little bit of spice and stuff like that. Other standouts for Australia, like McHenry's slow gin, even their standard gin is amazing, pretty delicious, really small batch, and they're in Tassie. There's some guys over in Perth, and in Adelaide there's plenty of different gin distilleries. So if you kind of get around any of the really small guys, you'll find some gems for sure. I think classic G&Ts just go like everywhere, and I think a lot of people try and garnish them with the specific Australian botanicals, which is pretty cool, like lemon myrtles and stuff like that. Finger limes, they kind of go into a lot of G&Ts here, and then there's the other spectrum of all the really special, kind of really delicious and like out there cocktails as well, and just good takes on the classics. There's Ginapalooza, there's Ginapalooza in Sydney as well. I think there's new ones starting up every month, it feels like, so I'm sure they're not hard to find. I think gin is doing so well in Australia because people are really taking advantage of all the amazing Australian botanicals that we've got, and different fruits and stuff like that. So like bush tomato, Davidson plum, lemon myrtle, all that sort of stuff. People are really trying to use what's local to them, and I think that's what makes all the different gin distilleries all over the place really popular. I think Australian gin's heading just in the upwards trend, for sure. I think in the last kind of 7 years, it's gone from having less than 10 gin distilleries in Australia to like over almost 200 distilleries now Australia-wide. So it's pretty special and pretty spectacular that it's happening that fast. In the last 12 months, there's been about 5 new distilleries that open every 2 weeks. So it's pretty crazy. I think it will just keep heading in that direction. Some will just go offshore. They won't even stay in Australia. And I think they're not big too. I think a lot of them are trying to be really localized, and that kind of adds a cool little concept as well. It's not for everybody. It's for their little community, and that kind of works really cool. Well, it's really diverse. It actually is in every classic cocktail. You've probably drunk gin and not even known about it before. So I think a lot of people have this kind of like bad expectation of gin. They've had like one terrible gin and tonic somewhere in the world, and that's kind of written them off from any good idea of gin. And I think everyone's either actually had it and it thinks it's delicious in a different cocktail, or hasn't had the right gin for them. As a good friend of mine always says, there's a gin for everybody, but not every gin for everybody. So yeah, that's basically the reason.